All right, so if you're looking for the Gradle build process migration, you're in the right spot. All right, I'll give a couple seconds for you to slip out if you're not. Yeah, good, okay. First, a little quick, it's about me. I have too many jobs. My name's Geoff, by the way, Geoff Matrangola, but you just call me Geoff. There's some work I've been doing with NewCircle. I've been one of the instructors for their boot camp class, their Android boot camp class. I also, my main job though is working for a company in Maryland, Praxis Engineering, and in their product group. I also teach a class at Loyola as an adjunct professor there. And I have a couple apps out on the Google Play Store. And I like to use those as examples of what not to do in your code when I teach the Android class. Because I use those to learn Android, and they were useful enough that I put them out on the Play Store. But, and one day I'm going to rewrite them. But I want to find out a little bit about you guys. I've been hearing on and off throughout the conference that a lot of people are already using Gradle, but just curious as to how many of you have apps out there right now, either on the Play Store or just one that you've created that you're going to get out there one day. All right, okay, quite a few, good. Most of you, right? That's why you're here, right? And how many of you are like just indie developers? You're the only one working on your project, right? Okay, okay. How many have got like a team of like 2 to 4 people? Okay. How many have got like 4 or more? Interesting. How many have got? Keep your hands up. 4 or more. Keep them up. 4 or more. Keep them up. Okay. How many have got like more than 10? All right. More than 20? All right. Wow. More. Are you from Twitter? Because like I heard the other night there was like 60 on that team. No, yeah. Wow. How many got? I'd say all of them, and then Android. What do you have all like? Six on Android. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty standard, right? You're seeing the main product has a lot more, and then Android specifically. So curious, how many are you using Eclipse? Yeah, okay. And using ANT, do you do any command line build stuff already with ANT? Okay. And then what about Android Studio? Anyone already made the switch to Android Studio? Yeah, I've been seeing a lot. Yeah, I was afraid this was going to be a little outdated already. Like everyone's already switched over. They're just going to come and see if you did it right? Yeah, or at least if everyone agrees with the way you did it. And then anyone using Gradle yet to do kind of command line builds or continuous integration, stuff like that? Okay, good. How about just who's using continuous integration? This isn't on continuous integration, but you need to do something like this if you're going to do continuous integration. Okay, good. So that gives me a little bit of how long to linger on what slides. So that's good. That help. So first, let's talk a little bit about the history. Like, how did we get here, right? So at least by the time I got into Android, they were already pretty much shipping at least an Eclipse plugin, and then shortly after that, a special version of Eclipse that was the ADT, right, the Android Development Toolkit, that was set up for doing Android development, right? It had some plugins and things like that that were very handy for Android development. But they separated it out so that you would use IDE would be Eclipse, but any command line building you wanted to do, you had to do with ANT, right? And they weren't really, the problem I think was that they weren't really, there wasn't a lot of crossover there, right? You could have something that compiled and built an APK fine for you in Eclipse, but then when you tried to run ANT to get a build out of it, it didn't, you either built an invalid APK or it didn't build at all, right? So that was pretty frustrating. And then In April this year, Xavier Douchet, sorry, I don't have very good pronunciation, announced that they were basically deprecating Eclipse and ANT in favor of IntelliJ and Gradle. And this was great news to everybody but me, who was doing a talk at the Boston AnDevCon a month later on how to use ANT. So it kind of made that completely irrelevant, and so I did a couple all-nighters and tried to figure out Gradle and get that to work for the class, and I think I squeaked by, but this is going to be a lot more about Gradle and probably a little bit cleaner. So Gradle overview. We've got Gradle's a pretty cool thing on its own, right? It doesn't have to just be used for Android. I think it's worth looking into if you're doing really any sort of Android development. And it's basically the build system that they've created that uses, it's a declarative language. Okay, so you're going to basically tell it where the source files are and where you want the executables to be put, and it'll take care of the grunt work for you. You're not going to have to do a lot of conditional while loops or if or whatever in there. It's declarative, right? And then there's a little bit of customization you can do with the with Gradle. So you can have plugins, and then it's got its own domain-specific language that you can use to extend it in any way that you need it. And that's very handy. And they have some APIs for integration. It's also free and open source. Okay, it uses what's called convention over configuration. So I'll show you a couple examples of that. Like just by having files in the right directory, the right thing's going to happen for you, right? But if you need it to be someplace else, you can configure it to look there. So it's pretty cool. And it also has Maven and ANT integration. So if you've done a lot of Maven or a lot of ANT, you're not going to lose all that work. Okay, just a lot of it. And it's based on Groovy, so that goes back to the DSL stuff where you're going to be able to extend it in whatever way you need to. Okay, and Groovy is if you don't know, it's a interpreted language that's based on Java. So in the end, it builds class files for you, and it's basically Groovy is built on top of Java, and then Gradle is built on top of Groovy. So you've got that stack going for you. So if you have to, you can always drop right down and just pull something out of like Java Commons or something if you need to. So all right, let's get into it. Here we've got a if we just want to build something real simple for Java, we can do the simplest case here. So I'm going to bail out of the presentation and then go right out to the command line. All right. So we'll do the simple, stupid hello world, right? So I can't see both at the same time, but we'll just wing it. Okay. So what you need to do is have, by convention, source main Java, which if you've used Maven, that's kind of similar to their setup, right? So you just need a source main Java. If you're going to do testing, you want a source test Java. And then you will put any resources down here in source main resources. And then all that goes into the build directory. So let's just go ahead and put one of those together. So we'll do mkdir hello. And so I'm going to build the directory structure real quick. Source main Java, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and put my, I'm just going to use the, just for sake of time, I'm just going to use the default package, right? So I'm just going to create a Java class in there. So you can see there's nothing, it's just super simple here. I know this is riveting. It's like pair programming to the nth degree. There we go. All right, oops. Escape, and then out of the mode, and then save it. All right, so there it is. Now I need a build.gradle file here. It's going to look like that. And all we have to do is tell it what plugin we want. Oops, I have to spell build right. All right, and I'll do say apply job, oops. Save it, come on, please save. There we are. And just do Gradle jar. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, there's, unless everyone in the front row wants to slouch. All right, so build successful. So now what we have is a build directory that was built for us. And in that build directory, we can see we've got the classes. And in there, there's my main and my class file that was compiled. And then there's also a couple other minor things, dependency cache, libs. And libs is actually where they stuck the jar file. All right. This would be great if we were building a library or something, right? But if we want it to be an application, right? Well, we want to change the we want to change the plugin type to be a instead of a Java plugin, we're going to make it an application plugin, which extends that, and it's going to use our main class. Okay. Now I used in the slides here. I guess I was playing around with. I used a fully qualified class name with a package name in front of it and all that. And you know, using your last name as a domain name is a great idea unless it's Matrangola. It's too hard to type at a conference, so I'll just skip all that. All right. Okay. There we go. All right, so we just want to switch our Gradle. We want to change our package name. Or sorry, our plugin name to be application. And then tell it what our main class is. Did I spell that right? Come on, pair. All right. I think that's all I need to do. It's in the default package. And now all I have to do is Gradle run. It's going to recompile it and run it, build the jar file, and run it, and there you go. That's hello. All right. Woo. So that was pretty easy, just basic Java. But we get to take that a little bit further for Android. So Android here is going to have a build.gradle that's going to need a little bit more to get moving. Okay. First off, it's going to use a plugin Android, which probably could have guessed that, right? But one of the other things you need to do in order to bring that plugin in is you want to pull it in through the dependencies. Okay, so the dependencies, this section here, is available for you. This build script section is available for you for is available to Gradle. Okay, it's not what's going to be installed on the phone or anything like that. This is or used to compile the Java code. This is for Gradle's runtime. Okay, and it's just saying that it's going to want to pull in this dependency, and this dependency will contain that plugin. And where is that dependency? It's in Maven Central. Okay, so you can pull that repository in. And then in this section, we are going to have another entry for repositories. But this section is available at compile time, and then is also possibly incorporated in your APK. So whatever gets pulled in can be something that your APK is dependent on to be built and then to be put in the APK and for available at runtime. So then you've got this Android section, which was defined in the Android plugin. A couple things in here. We're going to kind of revisit these a few times, so if you don't quite get it all, it's okay. We'll go through this and then we'll get into demos and you'll see a little bit more. You'll see, it'll maybe even be easier to understand by the time we get it into the syntax highlighted stuff in Android Studio. But for now, just know that this section here is what this plugin uses to define Android. And the first thing it has is the SDK version you're going to use to compile it, and then the build tools version. Okay, I'm using 19 here. And then the default config. The min SDK and the target SDK version are what is pulled into the manifest. And the manifest in this case, part of it is being built at runtime. Not just the manifest, the Android manifest.xml, you have to define that with two of the things in there are going to be your compile and your build SDK, right? So you would want a manifest XML that had like all your activities and your services and stuff like that defined in it, but it's going to pull the SDK version from this definition in the build.gradle. And then the build config right here can be expanded to have a little bit more information like the package name and things like that. So we'll get a little bit into that. And then there's a dependency. So this is just saying pull in the new app.compat dependency. So you don't have to have a full APK library type thing set up. All right? So along with that, there is the structure that you're going to need in the this convention versus definition or configuration principle is that you're going to have a project, and in that you're going to have a module. So this is what you get basically if you do the default create a new Android project for me in Android Studio. Okay, this is what it sets up for Gradle for you. And it's basically a project with a module in it. And in that module, you'll see the build directory. Okay, that's because I obviously ran this, built it before before I grabbed the screenshot of it and put it on the slide. But then in that same level, there's this source directory. Okay, and then there's some instrument tests. So this is for any of those instrument tests that you want to put in that get run on the device or an emulator. Would go in here. Any unit tests would go in there. And then there's the main, right? So the main basic setup for your source code. And here you've got a directory that you're going to separate out for your AIDL, assets, your Java code, and your resources. And then this is also where your Android manifest XML is. They also threw in the web launcher icon and a .gitignore default for you, okay? And then there's the build.gradle, which we saw on the previous slide. And then this is just something that Android Studio put out there to synchronize the UI. All right, so we won't really get into that. That's all IDE stuff. But then you'll notice there's a directory above that that's also got a build.gradle in it, and it's empty, right? But that's stuff that you would, if you have multiple modules in here, you could put, you could set up tasks that get run across all the modules.
Which one of those files should we put into Git if we want someone to, like with Eclipse, you need to put in a project or check it out, just check it out and do nothing and have it build. What about the Android?
Right, yeah, I would look at this .gitignore directory, and so everything but what's in gitignore would be stuff that you want to put in there. But for version control, you ignore the build directory. Everything else, I think, pretty much gets put in there. There's been debate I've seen about whether this IML file should be out there or whether that should just be generated each time. So it's going to have to be, you're going to have to find something that works best for your team. I would start by putting it in there. My team uses it, checks that in. The Gradle directory up here, this is what's called, this is for the Gradle wrapper. The Gradle wrapper is basically a configuration here. You see these two script files, Gradle W, that's actually a Bourne script, and Gradle W.bat that you would run on Windows. That's going to use this Gradle. So if you want to be sure that your code is being built with the version of Gradle that you developed with, then you would use this wrapper. Okay. It helps with the case. This has happened to us with ANT. Is that a developer will go and download the latest Android development tools, and they'll try to build the project, and it won't build because there's something different, right? At least this way, you're sure that you're going to get everything the same version that you intended with when you developed. Okay. If you compare this to the directory structure that we currently have for ANT and for Eclipse, you can see this is all right. So the project I pulled here, this is not the default project. This is the project that we use for boot camp. It's basically our lab, and it gets a bunch of stuff. But you can see how you've basically got all these. You've got the app and the libs like at the same level in the directory structure, and then you've got source. This gets checked in, but you don't want to check in gen, right? But they're the same. They're like right next to each other in the directory. Same with bin. Bin's right there, but libs you need to check in those, right? So I think I like the layout, the hierarchical layout a little bit better. It allows you. It's a little bit cleaner, a little bit easier to find what you need to have checked in. So let's keep going. Let's go ahead and take that project we saw. I'm just going to use the Yamba project. So if you've ever taken the Android Bootcamp class, or if you've ever watched Marco's YouTube thing, if you remember way back when you first started doing Android stuff, you might have watched that for learning how to do Android. This is basically that piece, but since this is more talk on build integration, we're not going to really get into the code there, right? But we're just going to talk about how to build it, right? So here's a typical project with an application and two libraries, okay? And all you got to do to get this out to Gradle, in theory, is to file, export, and then hit the Android drop down there, and then generate Gradle build files. Next, select all, finish. All right, we're done. Enjoy your flight. See you. No. A little more to do here. We got to do, so it built some build.gradle files for us, 3 of them, one for the app and one for each library. Okay, so we got 3 of those. The problem is they're a little out of date, so we have to edit them. So open with text editor. You don't want to use the default editor that gets pulled up with a Mac because it puts in all sorts of crazy stuff for quotes. And so I'm going to do 4.6 plus. So that's the version, I just pointed to my screen. That is the version of the build tools we want to use. And then, but down here you can see what this built for us. It's basically what we already saw. This is a build script. We want to make sure we're pulling in the Gradle dependency. For Android, the correct version. That's what we're doing there. All right. And then down here, it's also saying that we've got dependencies of the libs directory. We're going to pull in any jars there. And then there's also these 2 other things. It's project. Right? So these are 2 projects that we're dependent on, and these are libraries that are used to run our app. I'm going to bring this up to 19. And then down here, you'll see this new thing we haven't talked about yet, the source sets. Okay? This is basically telling Gradle that you're going to find these files in a different place than what you would normally have by convention. Okay? So you can see it's kind of dealing with the flattened out directory structure of ANT. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make that same change in all three of these files. If I can find open with, there we go. We'll say 6 plus and 19. And there it is. Text. 6. All right. More riveting editing now. All right, 18. Oh, no, 19, right? Yeah. All right, so I saved those. Good. All right, so now I'm going to import that into Android Studio. There's a lot to Android Studio. I'm not going to really cover much of it in this class. Okay. This is more about Gradle, but you'll see a few things in here. Oh, great! It's pulling up what I had opened before I came into the class. Let me go ahead and close this out. Close project. A new version's ready. What do you think? All right. No, I think the never update out of state definitely applies here. There we go. Yeah. All right, here we go. Yeah, so we're going to pull in. Yeah. Let's all update at the same time. See how that goes for Wi-Fi. All right. I know those Google people are just messing with me. All right. Import project. Here we go. So AnDevCon. There it is. Not that one. This one. Okay. So this is the directory that I was working in. And I went down and I found the build.gradle that was in basically the root of my 3 projects. Okay, so in Eclipse, you've got workspace directory, right? And then your projects end up in that workspace directory, or at least pointers to them. Okay, and then that's where if you're exporting multiple projects into Gradle, they're going to end up you're going to end up with a build.gradle in your workspace directory. Okay, so just a little, that could be weird depending on if you go into more advanced setups for your version control and file management. I'm just going to go ahead and accept the default for the import and cross my fingers.
I have a question.
Yes?
Is there any benefit of doing this export versus restructuring?
Yes.
And then the other question is there a way to export an Android Studio or convert, I guess, an Android Studio?
Not sure what you mean. Go back?
If you have like a traditional project and you want to go to Gradle, but you're using Android Studio.
You start in Eclipse, and then...
If you don't want to use Eclipse, I guess. Is there a way to do that?
Not that I know of. Yeah, there might be, but I don't know of it. All right, I'm going to try the auto import button. Yeah, so how painful. All right, let me do this. All right. Plan C, come on. Oh, I know what's wrong. I forgot a step. See if this works anyway. Oh, it did. All right. So what the problem was before was that I didn't update my wrapper. All right, and no. Okay, so it generated a wrapper for me, it being the Eclipse export process. And where am I? Down in directory. Here we are. Okay, so it created this Gradle W directory, and in there is a zip file, and it's old. You want to bring that up to at least 8. Okay, now if there's an update, who knows, it might be later. But that's something to look for if you get that error when you're importing. What I told it to do instead was to use the version of Gradle that I had installed on my box. Okay, so I'm a little bit more cowboy in that sense, right? I'm not going to be locked to the version that's in my wrapper. Okay, it's going to be, I'm going to build that with whatever, and once I check that into version control, if someone else checks it out, they're going to use, the version of Gradle they've got, whatever they got laying around on the machine. Okay, it just so happens that I've got, 1.8 on here, so it worked out for the best.
So did you have to change the properties
No, I just did that as part of the import. I said no, just use the one that's on the box, and so that changed for me.
This import, but in general, if you started off with,
You can. I won't really get into that because that's more of a Android Studio thing. But yeah, you can tell Android Studio to just use your Gradle and not the wrapper. But anyway, so this is what we got from the import. And so this goes to your question a little bit. Why would you do an import versus just restructuring everything? And what I'm going to show you is how to do the import and then restructure. Okay, and I found this to be effective. So yeah, basically this is just like the way it was set up in Eclipse. Okay, so you've got no change. The bin directories are still laying around. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention was make sure you back your code up, right? Because it does this change in place, right? So it actually modifies the directories that your code's in. So you want to at least make sure it's checked in version control, like duh. But it may be a good idea to go ahead and create a zip file and set that aside if you don't want to have to check out everything or whatever. But just keep that in mind. But yeah, the bin directory is still there, right? The gen directory is still there, but you don't want those anymore, right? But yeah, the source, right? The source is marked there. You see that's blue, right? That's because let me move the highlight off of it. See that's blue? That's because it knows it's a source directory. Same with res, all right? So this is not the standard Gradle setup, and that's handled by this source sets definitions, telling it where to find all these things, okay? Let's go back to the slides and make sure I didn't forget anything. So that was the source sets. This was the export, and yes, I needed to change the directory, the file name there. Okay, so yeah, this is what it gave us, right? And then I kind of talked about each of these sections, right, already, where we had the build script, the repositories, so all that we talked about. And now we want to go to a full Gradle setup, right, where we are, it would be as though we generated the file directly in Android Studio, okay, the directory structure. So we can take an existing ANT and Eclipse setup and migrate it over. It's actually pretty easy. So the first thing you do is delete this, right? Because we're going to end up moving everything around. And then I'm going to go back out to the command line here. If I can just do it like this. There it is. So I'm using Subversion here just for version control, just as an example. But when you start moving files around, and directories around, you want to do it in a way that your version control is aware of. So if you have to do anything special like Subversion, you have to do SVN, mbdir, and SVN makedir. I found that to be useful so that you can easily check it in when you're done, right? So where am I? All right. So I'm going to go into the apps directory where I have the source for the app. And I'm going to go ahead and make prepare the source directory. Oh, wait. I just said use SVN makedir. I promise, that's my last typo. All right, source main Java, right? And then I'm going to move SVN move source main com. Is that right? No, source com. Yeah. To source main Java. All right. And then I'm going to move my assets directory in there. Okay, into source main. And then I'm going to move, what else? I've got a list, but it's on the slide and I can't see it. Res, right? Into source main. And then I need to move the Android manifest. Source main. All right, see what we got here. Okay. And while that is running, I'm going to go ahead and start my emulator, because that takes a while to get going. Sorry for this brief interlude. 'Cause I know you're all anxious to see if it got started, if it worked. Yeah, no, I'm not using Genymotion on this because that would be so much faster. Sorry. All right, let's just see if I forgot anything here. Hit play. Go to, all right, so I made the Java directory, I moved the source into source main Java. I moved the, I didn't do this, I got to do the AIDL step. And then I moved the assets in, I moved the res in, and I moved the Android manifest. So I'm going to go back and grab the AIDL file and put that in the right place. All right. So I need to first make, where is that AIDL file? Find --name star.aidl. All right. Okay, there it is. All right, so I need to make an AIDL directory under source main. Right? And then move the existing one over there. Oh. Oh, really? What did I do wrong with my make dir there? Source main, oh, crud. Ooh, loud, sorry. No big size up here. All right. Yeah. There we go. All right, there we go. All right, so I moved everything around, and now if I go back to Android Studio, I can tell it to sync with the directories and then re-import the Gradle configuration, not the SDK manager, wrong button. It's a little icon that has the Gradle symbol with a down arrow under it. There it is. So now, this src directory, refresh failed. Come on. So it says it's missing my manifest. I love when this stuff happens. Main manifest missing. Yeah. It's not there anymore. That's right. It's not there anymore. Well. All right. Huh. I must have opened the wrong build.gradle file. Okay, because it was still looking for the defined locations there. So I'm going to take this out of here, and I'm still going to need it in this other one. There we go. Save that again. All right, let's import that. See, I'm making these mistakes just so you get another look at the build.gradle file. And in here, now you can see that that source folder that turned brown again. And now it moved, the blueness moved to under where Java is. Okay, so now it's separated out into AIDL, assets, Java, and res. Okay, and then the manifest is down in there.
I don't see an indicator on the IDE that's under version control.
I don't have it turned on here right now because I can't connect. But you can, yes. There's a really handy, under tools, you can just enable version control and it syncs up. Okay, and it makes it puts a little bit the version number and all that stuff on the side, at least for Subversion. I'm not really sure what it looks like on Get.
We use Get.
Make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, so now what do we have that we can build from? We've got some tasks that are handy, right? So if you want to build the APKs, you just do assemble. And that will build you both debug and a release version, all right? And then there's also this check, which will run the tests after you've done the assemble. And then build will just do both, okay? So you can check independently, or you can do build and it will assemble it for you and check. And then clean will just basically delete the build directory. So, I noticed an error. I'm tempted to go back and see what it came up with before we go on to the next thing here. What was this complaining about? Oh, was that that must have been the build Gradle file I changed by accident. I want to make sure they're, oh, it doesn't like where the AIDL file is. Huh. All right, let me try doing this. Build, make project. Let's clean it, rebuild. Oh, okay, it's clean. All right, I must have just decided to do a build while I was moving stuff around. So you'll notice in IntelliJ, and this was kind of a shock to me. I'm a Eclipse user from way back, using it in the J2EE days and stuff. And one of the things that was kind of disturbing yet delightful to me for Android Studio and I guess all of IntelliJ is that you don't save. You don't save files. It just automatically saves them for you, which is, disturbing and delightful. But the problem is that I don't think it really knows when to do a build. So it seems fairly random. Like I'll be moving files around or changing something, and it'll give me an error. I'm like, well, yeah, I was typing. So hopefully they'll be able to refine that as we, as the product matures a little bit. Or maybe it's just something I have to get used to. I don't know. So now we've got these things split up into the separate directories, and I'm not going to bother doing this with the lib because the lib I don't really care. For whatever reason, I don't need different flavors for that. So what are flavors? We'll talk about that next, I think.
Like build variants?
Yeah, build variants. Yep. So let me. Yeah, good. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. So I did my slides on Halloween, and so I was, Anyway, it's not as interesting now because it's November. I should have had turkey up there. So flavor. Basically, that allows you to manage multiple versions of your app. So you have that base version in main, and then you can have like a free and a demo version. You can have a special version that you're going to use for beta testing. You can do maybe separate builds that have that have icons or branding for separate companies, all that kind of stuff you can do with flavors. It's pretty cool. It saves you from having to break out all your code into separate APK libraries and then have one really small app, you know. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility there. I have a feeling, though, it could get really messy if you're not careful with it. So there are probably some occasions where it's very appropriate to use a library, and then some occasions where a flavor would be better.
So you could do things like your Google Play version, your Amazon version.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Yeah, Amazon and Google Play. I'm sure they didn't intend that when they built this. They want everything to go on Google Play, but yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You can also, change your package names in there. Different flavors can have different package names. Let's see. You can have different assets, resources, or even the Java code can be different in the different flavors. It's pretty powerful. But you build, and then also the nice thing about it is at build time, it builds the common stuff once, and then it's going to build whatever flavors you need assembled at that, for that particular build. And then also the Android manifest can be, it's basically built by merging the different flavors together. All right. So how do you do this? The Google talk from Google I/O has a lot of detail about this. So that's definitely a good YouTube video to watch. But for this, we'll just talk about it, a little lightly. I'm going to try to not cover too much overlap, but there's some things that I've used. So you can have multiple. I'm going to just show a version of a pro and a demo, right? So the pro would be the one that you put out and you charge $1 for, and the demo is the free version with the ads in it, right? So what we need to do first is add these product flavors to the manifest. I'm sorry, to the build.gradle file. And let's pull this up. So you can tell I'm not a native IntelliJ guy because I don't naturally do the Control-N thing to pull up the name. Anyway, so we'll just have in here, I'll just copy that out of there to save a little bit of time. This product flavor in the Android section. And I'm going to change it anyway. Okay. So, and it's actually different package name than that, so I'll say Yamba. And same for down here. So this way you can actually install both on your test devices at the same time, right? So they'll have slightly different package names, right? And so now we just need 2 directories at the same level as main, right? So new directory, and we'll have pro and new directory main, or demo, right? Demo. All right, I'm going to collapse this a little bit. All right, so how am I going to know whether you've got the main or the... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the assets out of main. So what I've got in here is a little license file, right? And in there it's going to say, what version it's running. And in the past, you'd have to create you'd have to go in and manage this by hand, right? You'd either have to change the file or you'd have to generate it on the fly with some sort of crazy ANT script. But now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this and out into my pro version. All right, so there's no assets under main anymore. And then I'm going to copy it and put a version under demo. It's going to be slightly different. Copy it, put it under demo. There we go. All right, and I'm going to make this slightly different. This will be free. All caps because it's free. All right. So now what that gives us? We've got the option to build 2 different types. Let me pull my slides back up. Two different flavors. play. All right, so that's what I did. I changed that. So here's our flavors. Now how do, oops, shoot. See, there we go. How do we build these, right? So if we just want to get an APK for the debug demo version, all we've got to do is run the Gradle command assemble demo debug. Right, so we'll get that particular one. But if instead we want the demo release version, we can build that. All right. And then this goes all the way through down to just assemble. We'll build all 4 versions. Okay. So it's got that permutation going where you have the flavor permutation and then the demo or release thing. So, and you can just fool with the assemble target there to get what you want. All right, and then in Android Studio, all you have to do is, pull up the build variants here, and you can pick. I think I need to re-import Gradle. There we go. Now this is loading. Now you can pick what. There we go. So you can pick what you want it to build when you hit the play button. All right, so it'll start in the emulator or whatever you got. Yeah?
I have a question about like what
No. Right now, at least, the Gradle stuff is where you want to do all your dependency setup and stuff like that. Don't do it in the IDE, okay? That's not, they're saying it's not ready yet, and that's, I guess, part of the reason why they're still calling it a beta. All right, so I don't know how integrated they're going to end up. I don't know. Google hasn't consulted me yet. So, all right. Okay, so that's the handy way to build different flavors. The other thing I wanted to show you, and this was mentioned in the Google I/O talk, saying that yeah, you could do it, but I just thought I'd show you kind of how to do it. One of the problems that I had when I first started writing my hobby app was that I would go to release a version to Google Play, and I'd forget to increment the number, right, the version number, and it would kick it back and say, hey dummy, this isn't version 2 anymore. So what I decided to do back in the ANT days was look at Subversion and then just use that revision number. So if you're familiar with Subversion, you can do SVN info. Here, I'll show you. Right, if you just do like SVN info, you'll see here one of the things it comes up with is this revision, right? So this is 318. I've done like 318 check-ins on this little project I've been working on. So if I ever want to reproduce exactly what this was, I haven't checked in my changes of directory moving around because I don't want to fool with Wi-Fi. But what I would want to do is build from something that was just a checkout, right? And then I would look at that revision number. And then anytime I wanted to reproduce the code exactly as it was when I built that, I could just use that revision number to check out that same, basically that same, branch, or it's almost like a snapshot at that point, right? So what I wanted to do was, basically do the same thing in Gradle. So there's that version, in the default config, you can specify, there's a section called default config, and this goes into all the manifest XML files across all the flavors. All right? You can also specify this in each individual flavor if you want. So you could have a version name that included free or demo or debug or whatever if you wanted. But just for the sake of example, there's this default config I'm going to use, and instead of hard coding a value in here, I'm going to pull this off of a task that's called SVN info, and I'm going to grab the revision and make it an integer and use it as the version code. And I'm also going to use that as a part of the version name, so that if a customer calls me up and says, hey, I'm having problems with version with this app, I can say, well, what revision number are you on? And then I could rebuild that exact code and duplicate that problem. Okay, so now in order to get there, I'm going to need to build this SVN info task. And that's built outside of the Android section as a separate task. Okay, there's a little bit, this is basically Groovy at this point. Okay, so this is some Groovy foo here that's using the output stream to turn that into a string, and that's the output of a exec, which is a Groovy command to run something on the command line, basically. And the executable is SVN, and the argument's info. Pretty straightforward. And then it's going to take the output, put it in the output stream, turn that stream into a string, and then do a little bit of regular expression magic on there to pull this value after the colon out and put it in. Basically, it's a return value. So the neat thing about tasks is you can update this ext return value, and it's basically a structure. So you can I just made up the word rev. That's arbitrary. You can make it whatever you want and put it right there. And then just for warm fuzzies, I did a println of the output. So during the build, I can see that it got the revision I expect. Okay, you wouldn't really want to do that long term because it just makes the build more noisy. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, and then one of the problems with Gradle, one of them, is that they don't support native tasks yet by default. But I did a little bit of research, and it's not really that complicated. Basically, all you have to do is get your native code into a jar file in the right structure and include that in the APK. Okay, but there was a few jumps that we had to jump through to get that to work. I'm not going to go, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this full demo here. But basically, you want to do what you would typically do, which is create your directory structure. Okay, that's that first step. That's just for Java stuff. And then you would want to take your JNI directory and put it under source main JNI, or maybe your flavor JNI. And of course, if you're already doing JNI stuff, you probably already have an NDK. But you want to set an environment variable to tell your build system where that NDK lives. All right, so I called that NDK home. And then in the build.gradle file, I'm just going to do a couple other tasks here. The first one is, I'll start from the bottom here. I'll start with build NDK. All right, so that's going to look in this outputs directory and the inputs directory, and it's going to compare them. And if something is newer in the inputs directory, it knows it needs to, then the outputs directory, it knows it's going to have to build. Okay, and once that happens, it's going to run this exec, because it's the task type is exec. It knows that it's going to have a command line to run this NDK build. So if you ever ran NDK build on the command line, if you're doing NDK stuff, you probably have, you'll know that that then generates a directory called obj. Right. Now, the first pass at this, it worked great, but the problem was it stuck this obj directory in the same, under my source folder. And that kind of violated some sort of deeply held principle that I shouldn't be putting output under my source folder, right? I need that to go under build. So the only way I could figure out to do this was without modifying the NDK build script, was to copy it first. So you can see this dependency here for the NDK build. There's a depends on right here. It says copy NDK source. That's going to copy the source files up into the build directory. Okay, it's just doing a straight copy, and it's smart if it's already there and it's a later date than what we already have. It's not going to bother doing it again. But that's all this is doing. So now it knows when it's doing. It knows to look for input for build.dir because that should have already been copied from source main JNI into the build directory. Okay, does that make sense? Pretty clear? Okay. And then once, now how do we get that to be put into our, finally we need to get that into our APK, right? So there's this other task here that's called native libs to jar. I'm terrible at naming things, so, but basically it's a zip type, right? So that's what a jar is. And it's going to use this destination directory of native libs, okay? That's where it's going to put the output. And it's going to create a jar file that's based on the build directory native ndk-libs, and it's going to include any of the .so files there, right? That's all this is doing. It's creating a zip file that's called native libs .jar, and it's putting it under my native libs directory. But where did this ndk libs directory come from? All right, that came from this little thing here. If we did an ndk build, we need to make sure we move the files out of the libs directory that the ndk build creates just for us without asking, thank you very much. We need to move that out of the way into the ndk libs, or whatever we want to name it that's not called libs anymore. Libs is used by the, for the building the Java stuff. So any jar files or whatever that you've got that contain Java code in there would go under libs. So you want to get that out of the way, this ndk.so stuff out of the way before your Java stuff starts happening. Okay. So now you've got a jar file, and it has been placed in the in this ndk libs directory. And where'd I go? All right, and then, so now when you're, the other thing you have to do that I unfortunately left off my slide is that you have to add your build directory, this ndk libs directory, to your dependencies. So I'll go out here to, I'll show you what that looks like just in here. This is going to be totally invalid because there's no NDK in this, but I'll show you at least what it looks like in the build.gradle file. So you see here it's already got this libs. There's nothing in libs in this project, but if you had any Java libs, that's where you would want them to go. Well, this can actually, we can actually add another line almost exactly like this that is the, for the build directory. So we could say, and then if you want to do replacement, you have to put it in double quotes instead of single quotes. Single quotes are just literally whatever the string is. But if we want to say build.dir, it's got to be in double quotes. Build.dir / ndk-libs. And now that jar file that contains your ndk will end up being put in your APK file. Okay, sound good? Good. Let's go back here. See what else we got. All right, and this last step is going to, I keep doing that. C, there we go. This last step will let you build your, automatically run that native to libs jar task whenever you're about to build. So that just means that you don't have to separately call that task when you type Gradle. So it'll just, whenever you do an assemble for whatever, it'll make sure your native libs are up to date for you. Okay. All right, so one of the things that I had done also in ANT was automatically convert my images from vector format to the various DPI sizes. One of the things that I got frustrated with when I first started was that I'd be working on a project and I'd get all the icons converted, and then someone from the graphics group would say, "Oh, we changed this." So then I'd have to go and generate 4 new PNGs and get them in the right directory, and I'm really bad at getting stuff in the right directory and checking it in. What I ended up doing was just having them give me all the graphics in vector format, and I was using we decided on SVG, and then I put that in like an arbitrary directory. We called it icons, and then ran a script to convert them. So what that looks like for Gradle is pretty convenient. You can basically that script was pretty heavy, right? Whenever you were converting those files, it's pretty slow if you've got a lot of images. So we didn't want to run it all the time. So what we did was we had this with Gradle here. We can set the inputs files and the outputs files, and it'll only run this for the files that need to be updated. So with the inputs files is this just looking at the file tree where we've got these files located. So it's in that directory, and we're just going to look for SVG files in case someone throws some other random file in there. And then the output files, that was a little bit more complicated. So what we had to do was take what the inputs were coming in with and compute what the final name would end up being based on the pixel densities that we were going to support. All right? And then only if, see this do last here, this only happens if the outputs are older than the inputs. Right? So this just saves us a lot of time, because then we only have to do these converts when we're ready. Now that convert is another Gradle script. So that is just a simple script that's just called convert. Oh, this is the find output file. So yeah, this is another script. So in order to compute what the output files are going to be, I just do a for each in this loop here and pull in each of the resolution types and figure out that it's going to have the name of the file, ping. So we do a little bit of string manipulation to find the file name without the extension, and then append PNG for it, and then we add it to the list of output files, and that's what that is. Okay, that's just computing what the output files will be. It's not very time consuming, but it is a little bit, but it's certainly less than this, which is the actual conversion. Okay, and this is very, very similar. This is just going to iterate through the files for that directory, and then go ahead and put them in the right drawables directory with this. I'm just using RSVG convert. There's a few other conversion utilities you could use to convert SVG files to PNGs or whatever. Okay. And then, there's I put that slide in the wrong place. That's where it was. This is telling us how to integrate how to make sure that native build will happen. Sorry about that. Any questions on any of those things? Did I? Yes.
Sorry, lost the question.
No, that's good.
I right now use Eclipse, and I have a library project that I write that is shared by multiple apps. Like, how do I do that in Android Studio Gradle? Like, do I put a single project with different modules inside, or what do I do?
Yeah. So back on this, where do I have it? On the dependency, you would list that as a compile dependency. So here you see how this, oh darn it, I did it again. See, there we are. You see how this says like colon, yum. This means that these are in the same directory. So what I would do is set up my my shared libraries in an expected directory, and they just replace the slashes with colons for whatever reason, and point the dependency to those subprojects, to those libraries.
And I don't need to do anything to the top level build.
Yeah, or you could, if you wanted to, you could use a Maven style. What is that called? You can. There is a way that you can, and I haven't explored this yet myself, but I'm really interested in it. There's a way that you can build your libraries so that they're a single file, and share that as an artifact through a repository. So, all I know is that you can do it. Right, yeah. You can have your own Maven repository. I think you're in your own file system, right? Yeah, it's local to your machine, or even just on a local server somewhere on your LAN. Yeah. Anything else? All right. Thanks a lot. Please don't forget to send some feedback there. So I hope you enjoyed the class. If you did, please leave the feedback. If you didn't, remember this was deep dive into framework or something. I don't know. All right. See y'all later. Thanks.